Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In case you haven't noticed, XRP has been moving to the upside for about 18 hours at this point. Not perfectly up in a straight line, but certainly in notable fashion. There's been a little bit of pullback along the way, but certainly dramatically. Last I checked, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9% up in the previous 24-hour period, a little shy of 20% for the last week. And I've noticed that all of the naysayers in the world of XRP, a little bit more quiet than usual. Don't mind seeing that be the case. Don't mind not seeing the whining, bitching, and moaning showing up in my newsfeed on social media platform X. But I'm going to share with you perspective from an XRP analyst who says that in the short term, we're going to be seeing $1.50 and explains that this is something that can be sustained and definitely needs to be sustained, or what actually needs to occur for this to happen. And also, a very interesting topic, what actually causes the cyclical nature of the crypto asset class? There are a lot of ideas on this, but I want to share with you one that I haven't talked about too much on this channel, but there could certainly be something to it. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And just for the lulz, I'm highlighting this headline. I'm not even going to read the damn article. It's on your screen. Every single month. How is this news? Why is this news? Crypto, do you have nothing better to write about? Like, the whole market's in bull mode. You can't find something better to write about than this. Here's the headline. Ripple locks 800 million XRP in escrow after unlocking only 500 million XRP in March. Okay, first of all, just to be clear, the escrows are set to 1 billion. There are two separate 500 million ones. And so if somebody hasn't technically released that, it's funny. I made a video talking about this topic like literally just several days or so ago. So that's another thing. But it's funny. The escrow released, oh my God. Did the sun come up today too? Ooh, write an article about it. What in the ever-living hell? Like, it's just the absurdity of it, man. So I just wanted to make fun of it because it's the right thing to do. Then there's this post from chart analyst Ali Martinez. He writes, in February, more than 69,244 Bitcoin were withdrawn from known crypto exchange wallets worth over $3.6 billion. Now, this is incredible. Think about this. And I know that it's not all the case that all of it happened in the last few days, but my gosh, when that happens, that is an indication that people are not interested in selling. If people wanted to sell their Bitcoin, which would be a catalyst to bring price down potentially if there's not enough demand, if people wanted to do that, they'd be putting more Bitcoin on exchanges, not taking it off. And that's why, and I even mentioned this in my very last video, where I was talking a little bit more about that type of price action, which is not as much where I'm going to be getting into in this video. But I highlighted there are a bunch of analysts expecting that in the short term, what's not guaranteed but most probable is Bitcoin moving to the upside, another leg up. Now, there is this post, because again, I want to talk a little bit about what's actually driving the 4-year cycles here. Well, Credible Crypto posited an idea about 4 years ago. Maybe it was technically, I think it actually was in 2019. So it's been over 4 years at this point, and it was about this lengthening cycle concept. And in this video, the purpose is not to go through what that is, but I wanted to share with you something that last night Credible Crypto had to say about his own analysis that he first put out over several years ago. He said, not too shabby for a thesis from 4 years ago, eh? Timing wasn't perfect, but it was damn close. Obviously, true validation of this idea will come when we see new all-time highs pre-halving and a blow-off top later this year to complete the cycle that started in 2018. If the thesis is wrong, then our blow-off top shouldn't come until 2025 as per the halving cycle narrative, which suggests that this new cycle is just getting started. Now, so this is why I wanted to highlight this first. I'm not going to say he's right or wrong. He could be right. He very well could be right. But there's a possibility that there's a separate explanation for why we could be seeing price action pulled forward, it seems. And again, we got to let time pass to see if this even happens here. I'm just positing ideas because I think it's an interesting topic of conversation. I'm not saying I know for certainty what is happening here, but there very well may be something to this. So check this out. There is this post from March 1st, so literally just last night, and it's from TechDev, very popular analyst, over 432,000 followers on X. And he wrote, the liquidity cycle, which has aligned with every Bitcoin top and takeoff point. Okay, so this is super interesting because I have seen this idea discussed before. And one of the first people, if not the first person I saw talking about this, was Raoul Pal. He's a former Goldman Sachs executive, the founder and CEO of Real Vision. He's also an XRP holder, very pro XRP. He publicly stated that he envisions XRP going to over $10 here. And there was an interview I saw that was fairly recent. I can't remember if it was the tail end of last year or maybe the beginning part of this year, but fairly recent. And so Raoul Pal, he stated that liquidity cycles are roughly 4 years apart, and it could be that Satoshi aligned Bitcoin halvings with this specifically, or maybe it's just coincidence, right? And maybe that's more probable. It's just coincidence. But Raoul Pal is actually saying something similar to TechDev, because TechDev, as I'll show you in just a second, is actually arguing that these liquidity cycles, they're not exactly 4 years. It's more like 3.5 years. And I'll show you that in a second, but it's just interesting because Raoul Pal, independent from this, said actually that's the real driver. It's not the halving. It's not the halving. And Raoul Pal also stated somewhat recently that what he has seen persuade traditional finance guys to get into crypto is just proving that growth of this asset class is correlated to liquidity cycles. He says once they understood that, they felt that they could forecast where crypto markets will be in the future, giving them the confidence to jump into the space and invest. If you could see what's driving it and just see its liquidity cycles. And then, of course, it's helpful to fundamentally understand that there's something to this and there's real utility to be had. So if you have that in conjunction, but they're just sitting there, how do we even forecast this damn thing? And so Raoul Pal says it's no more complex than liquidity cycles. And so then you can think about what other very popular and reputable analysts say. For instance, the blockchain backer, he says, I don't buy the halving narrative. And he has he cited his own specific reasons. But he's beat that to hell, and he's absolutely correct. I just don't buy into the halving narrative. Anything having to do with the halving narrative, I think it's garbage. But there are a lot of ways to come at this. I'm just saying this is another thing. And there very well may be something to this. And so if indeed this is what's occurring here, it could be one more explanation, at least one more thing to consider. And so there was this article from Bitcoinist, Bitcoin having overrated, this 3.5-year cycle dictates price. And I want to touch on just a part of this. In an analysis that could shift the narrative around the Bitcoin value proposition, crypto analyst TechDev has presented evidence suggesting that liquidity cycles, rather than the much-discussed Bitcoin halvings, are the primary catalyst for bull runs. Using a set of charts, TechDev offers a new perspective on Bitcoin's price dynamics. In a recent post on X, and I'll pause note again, this article is from November, TechDev asserts, still waiting on the halving? The 3.5-year liquidity cycle has been running before Bitcoin existed. And here's the actual post. Here, I'll make this full screen for you. I've had it pulled up. This is where he said, this is November 7th of 2023, still waiting on the halving. The 3.5-year liquidity cycle has been running before Bitcoin existed. And you can see what he's talking about here. I mean, this is going back into the early 2000s. And then you just slap Bitcoin right on top of this son of a bitch, and then you can see the correlation right there. 3.5 years. Interesting, right? Anyway, piece continues. The chart provided by TechDev illustrates a juxtaposition of Bitcoin's price movements with a liquidity signal derived from major central bank balance sheets. The striking feature in this chart is the series of sinusoidal lines that seem to predict pivot points in Bitcoin's price trajectory. These pivot points, marked by colored dots, align closely with the inflections in the central bank's aggregated balance sheet, suggesting a correlation between global liquidity and Bitcoin price movements. It is worth noting that each liquidity cycle has a length of around 3.5 years, which is slightly shorter than the Bitcoin halving, which takes place around every 4 years. And so again, it's close enough. You can see why people could mistake the halving for being the case. But that's why, I'd say it like this. Like saying that the halving is the reason for this, which years ago, I thought that there was maybe perhaps something to this. Like on my channel, especially my early days, like I thought perhaps there was something to it. I no longer believe that. But so at this point, I will tell you that I think that the idea of the halving being the reason for the cycles that we see is just as stupid as if you say the 4-year United States presidential election is the reason for the 4-year cycle. It's unrelated. Like it's very, and there's a number of ways you can attack it. This is just another one that I find very fascinating. And then there's also this, as far as XRP, and the reason I wanted to highlight that though, is because if it's truly cyclical, if we're going to continue to see these cycles, then Bitcoin is going to take off. You guys realize that, right? If that's correct, if that's truly the driver, there we go. We should be seeing that. We should be seeing it sooner than later. And so perhaps it's the case, and we'll see whether it comes to pass. I'm not placing a bet on this, but perhaps it's the case we will see a new all-time high for Bitcoin before the halving occurs on roughly or exactly April 20th. It's not far away. And if that happens, my conviction for XRP hitting a new all-time high will go through the roof. And that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about that concept before getting to the more fun part, specifically about XRP. So here's perspective from chart analyst E. Greg Crypto. XRP color code to $1.40 update. Check out the post dated on 22nd of February 2024, where it presented different time frames. And for the sake of the time for this video, I'm just going to go past that because you're going to get the meat of what he really wants to share with you with the rest of this without looking at the previous one. He says, closing daily candle above these targets will open the road to hit fib. That means $1.40. And so again, closing daily candle above these targets, and the targets are listed on the screen there, and there are 4 of them: 66 cents, 70 cents, 75 cents, and 93 cents. And then he says, once XRP pumps to $1.20 to $1.50, the above levels will be the macro support levels and will never be seen again. Now, I hope that's true, and it actually could be, because if it's the case that Bitcoin's going to a new all-time high and XRP is going to go to a new all-time high, whether that's $10, $15, $20, I don't know where it would top off. I don't pretend to know. Even if you have like an 85% pullback, if it goes high enough, even a 90% pullback, which historically is kind of normal in crypto, even if, you still wouldn't see those levels again, would you? Depending on where it lands. So it's not crazy to think that's the case. So, of course, not that I want to talk a whole bunch about XRP crashing 90%, because right now we're in bull territory, and that doesn't particularly make sense to focus on, not too much anyway. This is the time to be excited about the future. We're unquestionably in tremendous bull territory as an entire crypto asset class. And that's why, like, again, these ideas of XRP hitting these levels, eventually hitting a new all-time high and going into price discovery, not crazy. Going to $5, $10, 15, 20. Again, I'm not making a prediction. I don't know where it's going to go, but none of that sounds crazy. And then there was this post from E. Greg Crypto. XRP Bull's next task. And he shared this just this morning. For the bullish momentum in XRP to sustain, the bulls need to achieve a couple of consecutive closes above the Fibonacci 382 level in the short term. And so that would be 60 cents. So at least at the time that I'm recording this, we're safely above that. So a couple closes, he says that's going to certainly go a long way to help ensuring the sustainability of this. And he says, the next critical milestone for the bulls is to secure a daily close above the Fibonacci 0.5 level, which would further propel the current upward movement. And so that would be a price level of 75 cents. So that's what he's saying to watch for. And look, I've been highlighting recently, it's very difficult to find an XRP analyst, who actually thinks that we're not most probable to move to the upside. Out of all the analysts that I follow that I think are reputable and intellectually honest, I don't know if I can find a single one that at this point would argue it's more probable that there's a move to the downside, which isn't the case. I've been around over 6 years holding XRP. That's not normally what I see. And so it's not a guarantee. We're talking in terms of probability. But again, that's uncommon. And so that, in conjunction with the fact that we're in a hot market, XRP for the last roughly 18 hours has been moving to the upside, not exactly negative signs. So we'll keep tracking this, but man, what a fun time to be in crypto. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as me, because I'm having, as usual, a blasty blast. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.